Good morning, hello, and welcome. Little bit of a late start today, guys, so we're not going to be able to get too deep into our analysis, but we're going to do it anyways. Other than that, hope you guys are having an awesome morning, day, whatever time it is when you happen to be watching this recording, or for those of you hanging out with me live today. Hello, good morning, welcome. As always, guys, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, leave me a fun comment to read. I love that stuff. But let's get into it. So one of the big first things that I've been paying attention to and I've been seeing, let's go to our report, is that we've started to get some condensing price action on our weekly look inside of our EMA cloud between our 20 and our 50. Not necessarily anything uncommon. I mean, this is a pretty big battleground, and you can see it a lot easier in our daily look as to what's going on here. So with this consolidation zone, if we look back a bit, we can see that there was quite a battle and a fight out here the last time we crossed to the downside below our EMAs. And then, of course, our brief attempt to overcome them. That's what then led to the separation of our EMA clouds down to our current lows. So up here, we've got a crossover event starting to happen. We've pulled pretty far away from our moving averages. We are above the point of control on our 3-month look. And we're now trading in a consolidated range that happens to line up with a nice high volume node. Of course, we've got the edge of the auction here and here. So what this is starting to tell us, at least on our daily look, is that the buying activity, while we've been making higher highs each day, is looking for selling activity. And it has found it so far every day as we make our higher highs. But you'll notice that our lows are coming down to about the same position. So currently, price action is being held on top of this high volume node, and it's exploring and probing towards this thinner volume area. But the other thing to keep into consideration, and this is for the bearish argument, it's only going to knock on this floor so many times before supply finally floods too much for buying. So at that point, that's when we would look for the rotation down, possibly to this level. And if it keeps going, we would be paying attention to see how it lines up with our moving averages and our current trend line. So if we get a couple days of consolidation within our high volume node and we're looking at a bearish thesis, what we would expect then is that our moving averages are going to start to move up too as well. And potentially by the time we do break through, our moving averages might be somewhere up around here, which would be a great spot for support. A really good location for buyers to step back in if this is going to continue up into more ralliness. But that being said, we've got about 2.5 minutes left till bell opens. So we're going to talk about what we're looking at today. I'm fully expecting us to see balance. Just kind of due to the fact that we are seeing this consolidating price action. And so far, the range has been expanding while consolidating. So I'm half expecting things to go a little bit flatter leading into the remainder of this week, at least until things kind of form into an apex, and then we end up breaking one direction or the other. That being said, we are going to be looking at our high volume node today as our line in the sand for bearish thesis. And we're going to be looking at the 38.2 to the upside for bullish thesis. Basically, what I mean by that is if we cross above the 38.2 and we find price acceptance and sellers start to disappear, that's going to give us the idea that we're going to be wanting to look for long plays pretty much exclusively unless something changes. And then to the flip side, if sellers are able to overtake that high volume node to the downside and then start to generate price action and interest below it, that's going to have us looking for short plays until something changes. Otherwise, we're going to be looking to play the value area in this consolidation zone and see if we can make some good plays. All right. Let's get our contracts situated and up, and let me get the view back to what you guys should be seeing. All right, so here's our overnight activity, right? We can see that. Oh, I didn't save that screen. All right, let's fix this real quick before we do other things. Personally, I've been thinking the 3-day look is a little bit better than the 5-day. Just from a visual standpoint, you guys can see a little bit more. It doesn't look quite as busy because I do like to mark off a lot of levels. Some of them much more important than others, but for my tick chart that I trade off of, they do expand out more, and they then do become important when you pay attention to how price action reacts to each and every one of them. All right. Let's go ahead and turn extended hours off since we are about to open. We don't need to look at that anymore. We'll get the chat room opened up so that way we can see what all the fun people are saying to us this morning. And let's move over to our main screen. Okay, there's our bell. Let's see. Oh, based on where we're opening up. I don't necessarily think I see any early plays. So I don't know if I'm going to load any contracts up yet. And I did play around with some bracket orders this morning. It's actually why I was a little bit late starting the stream because I was messing around with those. I think we might try implementing a couple of those in our plays today just to kind of get a feel for how they work. Now, the cool thing about the bracket order is once it goes in, I can still adjust the levels after the fact. So if instead of taking profit at a predetermined amount, I want to set it, to a specific level that makes more sense, I can do that. But the way it's set up is it's set to give us a really good risk to reward. And if we get an absolute ideal entry and we're right about everything on the play, it should allow enough breathing room with correct uh, with correct targets as far as value is concerned to be able to make the most out of that. But again, for active play, we can adjust those levels up and down, and it'll just make things easier because it'll put 3 orders onto the board right as I start. So then that way I don't have to monitor each piece individually. Maybe that'll help me take profit where I'm supposed to on balance days when I start trying to convince myself that it's going to break and run as opposed to do what it's showing me it's doing. So we'll see. But for now, guys, we're just going to kind of watch this activity play out until we see something that makes sense for a potential early play or which contracts we should be putting on our board. I suppose for now, if we're going to be playing balance, we should be targeting somewhere between 398 and 399. So I think what we'll do is we'll load up the 398 longs for now. And then for the short side, we're going to load up 396s. We're not necessarily going to play anything short yet, but just in case something happens that makes me say, oh, geez, we got to get in on that. I want to be kind of close to the price action so that way we can capitalize on delta. Let's see. I am going to make sure both of my orders are set up. Oh man, that's unfortunate. So if I leave the template open, it takes up a lot of my screen real estate. But I don't think I can... Yeah, that just has to stay open. Okay. We're going to have to figure that one out. Oh, that doesn't really help. All right, looks like we're going to be shortening our contract charts so we can actually, excuse me, see. I wonder if we can turn it off. Oh, yeah, we can turn off the order template editor. Okay. Ah, sweet. Okay. So we can use our order templates and we can turn off the editor. So that basically means we're not going to be able to make a new template while market activity is going on, but that's okay. We don't have to worry about that. All right, let's turn that off for the other side too. Boom. Awesome. Okay, now we can see everything. That's what we like. All right. It's interesting. With our overnight activity on versus off, things look a lot different. We are going to go ahead and turn it off on our main chart, though, just because I want to see how these are playing out more with the current activity. Ooh. Unfortunately, guys, the cough is kind of bad today. So I'm going to try really hard not to cough into your ears. All right, looks like we might have a slight trend line we can draw now. We've got some pretty good touches on that. Might be having a sideways breakthrough of that, which should then rotate us through the VWAP. And then we'll be able to see if we make a lower low or a higher low. And then that will potentially be our early entry signal for long. I got to clean up some of my other charts real quick. Just got too many days visible on some of them. Oh, and I just realized, you know what I forgot to do today during my analysis and my morning adventures? I forgot to draw out supply and demand zones for today. So let's see if there's any that I missed. I'll look at that real quick. For intraday stuff, guys, if you're curious, I use the 30-minute chart to find my supply and demand zones. So based on yesterday's activity, we'll see if this pops up correctly on the screen. Man, I hate how it does that. So anyways, those kind of purple lines you see on your chart, supposed to be a rectangle. That's yesterday's demand zone. And then our supply zone looks like it's going to be here. And what I'll do is I'm going to redraw these on the tick chart, so that way they'll pop out a little bit more. I just want to figure out what the high and low is. Well, I guess we could do this. So I can kind of see where the top is. There we go. That works. Now you won't be able to see it yet, but I'm going to mark off the other zone as well. And that's going to be our supply for the day. So if we get up to, oh, it's pretty high up there. 401.50, somewhere around there. That's when we'll hit the supply zone from yesterday. So we got a cross through and touch on our 48 moving average. Now, because it's still early in the morning, that's not going to give us as much information as we would hope. But if we are unable to make a higher high, that could be a good signal for us to go short on. The trouble with that, of course, is trying to recognize where an upward move should and or would fail to. Oh, well, there we go. So that looks like that would have been a pretty good scalp right off of the PD value low. So pretty good significant line. Now, hindsight analysis, we kind of look at this, right? We've got this hammering on that PD value as a resistance. We popped up above it just a little bit and then came back into it. So that right there, that kind of looks like an upthrust event to me, which then we would look for that next test, which we see right there, that green candle, test fail to get back above the previous day value low. So then we get that quick rotation down. We will be watching now to see. So if this is an actual upthrust event, we should now see this activity eventually make its way to breaking through the overnight low and setting us a new low on the day. But that all said, I am still expecting a narrow range today. And with a narrow range, we're expecting balance plays. Of course, might not be able to get some big plays, but with a narrow range, if you're playing smart, you can get some decent scalps. All right. So we still seem to have a little bit of an apex forming. We've got some confines between our uptrend line and our downtrend line. Kind of dancing around on that VWAP still, but it looks like it is starting to act as some resistance for us. Boy. All right, continuing to get some structural breakdown of our uptrend line. Those moving averages are getting closer and closer together. Potential crossover event. But there also doesn't seem to be strong selling today. And there's also no strong buying either. That's why we've got this narrow range that kind of keeps dancing back and forth. Oh, look at that. We had a slight break to the bottom, slight break to the top. So it looks like we're starting to fan out of our apex. Decent risk to reward location for a short here. Previous day value would be our stop out point. And am I on the right contracts? We've still got those 396s dialed up. Given the current range we're looking at, might not be a good contract. All right, if we get one more attempt at that previous day value low, I am going to go ahead and pull the trigger on a position, but it looks like I dillied a little too long with my dally, and I missed it. So the only unfortunate thing about not taking it near the top, right? I mean, you can see this sideways consolidation. So we don't know when it's going to break up or down. So playing, the VWAP cross, the EMA cross, you could just kind of get chopped around for a bit before things actually start to go. But if you play, the resistance and the support, you at least have a much closer line for cutting your losses earlier, as opposed to having to watch a lot of red build. Oh, here we go. All right, so if this doesn't break, we should have a really good spot to enter on. See if it'll execute us in. All right. So you can see all the lines pop up on my chart. That's our bracket order. So our first stop out, pretty close, pretty easy, but it's lined up perfectly. First take profit spot will be down at the bottom of the range. Since we're playing so far out of the money, kind of got stunk on that. Oh, there we go. All right, so that's our first piece. We got two more left. See if this continues to break or if it flips around. If it flips around, we will just close this for the profit. However, we are going to move our double stop up. Oh, maybe not that high, though. Yeah, we're about to get stopped out before I can adjust it. Nope. Good. Adjusted it just in time. I wanted to be above the EMAs. So that was cool. I'm actually really pleased with how that bracket order worked out. Let's see if we actually get this break or if we're just going to rotate back up. I mean, the good news is because we are playing the 396s, if we do get down to there, our value in the contract will start to accelerate once we cross over. So we should hit our next two targets much quicker than where they look like they are on the chart. You can see them much easier on our profile chart than you can on the tick chart. So despite the fact that it shows our furthest one away so far down, once we cross 396, that's going to start moving much closer. And I believe it actually should end up inside of yesterday's range. So that was the thought process with how I set these up. But again, if we had played a contract that was a little bit closer to the money, we would have been closer to hitting these profit points much sooner. We do have a new low on the day. Sellers seem to be taking some control here. All right, we've broken through that demand zone, so this should be a pretty decent rotation now. I do expect we're going to hit our second profit target. unless something crazy happens. Which, I mean, hey, it's the market. Anything can happen. I mean, that's a pretty solid pushback to the overnight low. We'll see if we can continue to generate price activity below it. So we're still in a balanced thesis. Despite this drop, despite this move, we're still in a balanced thesis. If price action holds itself below overnight low and we start to get some consolidation down there, that's going to give us like a little check mark into our bearish column. So far, so good for this bearish play. Now, that being said, we're going to try and keep this in mind that we don't want to get locked into the bear thesis, right? We have the play already set up. So in theory, we're going to be looking for where any weakness starts to form. So if we potentially want to flip to the other side. Come on, sell it. Sell it. Oh, it was so close. Sellers definitely have the upper hand right now. We're getting closer to B period. Let's see if they can keep consolidation down here at the end of the range. It's the only thing that's tough about bracket orders would be if I wanted to add to this position. So I think if I set up a bracket order, then I pretty much have to just let that play out and then look to something else if I'm going to try and play on top of that. I'm actually hovering over the flatten button. So I'm thinking, well, I mean, if we break the EMA, we may or may not have another drop down to take profit on. So I'm still trying to remind myself that I have a balanced thesis overall. So we're looking for a low that would make sense. So far this is still good for our bearish play. This is where it's going to make a difference, right? You see this thin area in the volume profile? We don't want price to rotate through that because then it's going to start trying to drift towards higher volume where price was more readily accepted. If this play is going to continue working, we want to see the rejection there and the rotation back through the higher volume node at the bottom. This does seem to be... here, I'll kind of draw what I think I'm seeing. So I'm seeing something that looks a little bit like this, right? A little flat top. Oh, never mind. We were making higher lows in this area, but that kind of just changed. Ooh, double touch on that support. Looks like our short line is strong today. All right, looks like we're about to get our second piece. Need a little more volatility or a little more price. All right, so here's the probe, little exploration. They're checking to see if there's buyers hanging out. Wow. We did not get filled. That's a pain. It looks like they found some buyers, huh? Either that or they're trying to shake out shorts before they take it to the next level. One or the other. We are about to start B period. I mean, this would be a good spot to set a proper low on the day. Oof. Are they going to rotate us through? Yeah, that's a pretty low effort buying wave there. They did not have to work hard. Oh, I just realized one of my monitors was not showing me things. Okay. Oh yeah, lots of buying volume, at least for the very short term. All right, so they did run into a little bit of trouble trying to push through the thin area, the overnight low. Although, given that explosive candle, one could argue on the very short term that that's a bull flag. Yep. And that's the rotation through the thin zone. So decent probability that we're going to get stopped out of this play. volatility alone might take us out if they go challenge the VWAP. Now, there's always the possibility that this is a false run that's going to flip again, but once you break through the EMA clouds, that does start to become more and more unlikely. So the only hope for this bearish play is that VWAP holds as resistance, and it didn't. All right. I mean, we did say balance was the way to go today. So we should have taken more profit when we saw that short-term bull flag. But we're still winning on the day. And that was our first little experiment with bracket orders. I liked the way it worked out. Looks like we're getting a crossover and a break of the VWAP. On our 5-minute HA candles, though, this is looking like a good spot to get short. So we might sit out of this next one. Let's see, we got 396 at the bottom, so I still want to play those to the short, I think. And I think we're going to stick with 398s long for now. If this balance area kind of continues to consolidate, we'll tighten those reins a bit. If this ends up being a false run, that's going to be a little aggravating. Because it barely kicked us out. I mean, it's back in some pretty solid profit right now, too. That being said, this zone is no longer in play. But this one is.
I thought I was on a team, but I guess I'm not, so. Well, that's the one I was supposed. I had said I would, but I guess they don't want me. They don't want marketing except to write taglines. Yeah.
Oh man, this is kind of starting to look like a false flip. Oh, that's a pain.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking.
All right. Well, if we're still looking at our balance thesis, we've got a high volume node just down below. We've got another high volume node up above us at that point of control. So right now it's kind of fleshing out the space between those two nodes. So where we're seeing these lows right now is where we would expect to find support for the rotation up.
Just sort of something that's like, hey, I should tell all my clients that we will never email them for payment instructions or yeah. Yeah, like right.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying we need to do a talk. Like I was just thinking if this is something that can be useful and helpful as a tool to protect them and also help us. It's like it's important, but it's like everything's important. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that going straight across? It shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to draw a trend line from yesterday's low to today's low.
Yeah. Jenny was saying, because
Maybe
first of all, what
if I do this.
audio of that event. So I do have an audio file of the whole thing. I've also
No, that still looks like crap.
I went through the whole thing and was like, oh, this is a good soundbite. This is a good clip of, Emily saying this, is a good clip of Peter or Patrick or
Well, we're gonna leave it because we can at least see it on our longer time frame charts. Unfortunately, you guys can't see it, but that's all right. That's all right. All right. Looks like we are maybe getting the crossover now. But VWAP still looks like it's holding strong as resistance.
But it's somebody talking. So I almost think we could do that ourselves. If we could just get you.
Oh,
We don't need Dan to
almost crossed over, but it didn't.
focus, and that's good because other things video works. But
Oh, that's cheeky. That's very cheeky. Oh.
Put it on just like a
Yep.
file that we could share in many different capacities.
They done played us for a fool, guys. And as far as a defensive position goes, I mean, remember, we entered up where the stop line is, right? And we got stopped out just over VWAP. We were only defending that by a couple cents, right? And typically I'll defend it by a couple cents just so that way if it moves super quick, we have a higher chance of breaking even on it. So that almost screams that it was a clear out. That is really cheeky. All right, well, we're still looking at a potential balance, but it's just kind of a pain in the butt that we could have held on to that a little bit longer and then taken our profit here. Would have been much better than getting stopped out for the cents we did. But oh well, remember, it's all part of the learning process, guys. It's also my first time working with my bracket orders.
So those are some options. So I think step one would just be kind of like jotting down those stories, and you can do it however you like, bullets or whatever. I'm happy to even read them too. If you want a different voice or something else, doesn't matter. Or Jenny, I'm sure would do it too. Might be good to hear from you because people are familiar with you, and then all that. Yeah.
We're at the bottom of our current value zone on the day.
Yeah. And then you can.
So far, they weren't able to establish price outside of it. I'm going to make another try at it, though. So if this fails to generate momentum downward, this is where we would be looking to play our long play back to VWAP.
We're typically in Tuesday and Thursday, but
do I have the right contracts up, though? 93, 30 cents. We should probably move closer to the money.
Put it on our website. Like, so it's very multi-purpose. And some people they just want to listen to something. Yeah.
No, we missed it. Futzing with the contracts. Yeah, look at that. Perfect touch right where the low at 950 was. Would have been a great scalp either way. So this is kind of the horizontal area we're looking at now. All right, so you can see that yellow line I just put on there. The morning activity in A period up above. You can very clearly see the rotation. And then now we've got this back and forth. coming in through here. See if we get another rotation.
Right. And she's like somebody who works in the office or something. Oh, okay. They need an Emily or something. Yeah. So it was, I mean, right? And it was absolutely nothing that we did. We did everything we should have. Like we couldn't possibly, you know, you led the horse to the water. That's all. That's all you can do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we're just watching for now, guys. Seeing where our next play is. If we had held fast to our balance plays, right? Well, I mean, we should have entered where we started looking, but again, we were just a little bit too late. We're fussing around with contracts. So if we do get a rotation, the next spot we're going to be looking at is actually up where our stop line is, where we first entered short. Because remember, when you're balancing, you're looking for those plays down to the midline, kind of where VWAP ends up migrating to. If you get a rotation to the other side, great. That's awesome. You know, start taking your profit along the way. I mean, we could have entered short off of this trend line, but I don't trust it. If you did, should be very quick out if you're wrong. Potential up thrust of our horizontal zone on the downside. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we weave that into the stories too. Like, how does because I think you say it to people, and they're either going to be like, "What is that? What does that mean? Why do I need that?" It's a lot of work to set it up. I mean, you remove the barrier of cost, but
I guess that trend line would have been a good play.
Yes, you know, so what is it that potentially, like, just illustrating it in real life terms.
So looks like we did fail above the VWAP. We failed above that horizontal line. So that's a nice up thrust. We'll see if this gives us a low to play off of, or if that was the breaking point.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I hate playing balance days. Normally I can get in at good spots, but I never seem to take profit well.
Anywhere?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, they're going to take another crack at pushing below today's developing value. Got another touch off that short line.
Yeah. Because they're gonna try everything to see what works.
So I issued a stop order for if this flips around off the stop line.
Yeah. Unless they can now, we have the 24 hours to identify it. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're gonna do the thing that's gonna. Yeah. Okay, so we can start there. Yeah, and again, I know it's important and it's happening and it's this, but obviously don't yourself to do it. Something that.
But I think we're going to want to take profit sooner rather than later on this. Oh, just missed our boat.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to Bill Steele on other things today, so I can just have him borrow that if need be. I'm sure he would too. He knows how important this is, but yep, yep. Cool. Let me know how else I can help you. Thank you too. Bye.
Hmm. All right, they knocked our first piece out. So I definitely was right. We wanted to take profit sooner rather than later on that. Let's see if this demand zone holds. We did get a tick down to make the low on today not as secure as it was. I mean, they do seem to be having trouble establishing value or establishing price below value, but we're not really seeing any more aggressive swings back against the movement. And if you look at our EMA clouds, I mean, we teased a crossover, but it's still red. So we're still positioned to play this as balanced, though. That's why our stop is below the current low. But so far, this demand zone that had formed seems like it's getting flooded with supply. And we're getting that consolidation down here now, too, as opposed to the instant pushback that we've seen the last two times we were down in this zone. And we now have a poor low on the day. I suppose the good news is a lot of times when you first make a poor low, you get an initial push in the opposite direction, which will give us time to adjust our stop and maybe get a little bit of profit. Okay, so if this flips around, we're just going to break even on the long play. What? Okay, that was weird. All right, so we broke even on the long, so we're still green on the day from our first short. But I don't want to be looking long anymore, not with that poor low looming below us. So there's a cool little lesson for you in market profile, right? We were playing the balance, we were playing the long position side, and we got a poor low. And what we know from market profile and auction theory is that there's typically a good chance when a poor low is established that you see a quick opposite reaction in which people start to cover their positions. So that will typically give us an opportunity to hop out. Although poor lows don't always have to be in play, nor do they have to be addressed. This very well could rotate back up. But odds were not in the favor of that. So that's why we did want to get out of that and try and save ourselves a little bit of profit. So, like I said, we're still green. A little green, but still green. We're making good plays. That's the most important part. I can't stress that enough to you guys, especially all of the traders who are newer. Don't worry about how much you're making. If you're so worried about how much you're making, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you're probably either going to burn out, stress yourself out, or just blow up because your emotions are going to take over. Focus on trading well, making good plays, executing in and out when you're supposed to. Once you can do that without even thinking about it, then scale up. Then worry about, making this your permanent job or the way in which you make money. Or hey, I mean, if you're just blessed with natural talent, all right, cool, whatever. But for the rest of us plebeians, focus on trading well. The money will come if you trade well, and scale comes with experience. Can't tell you how many newer traders I've met in my journey. Hashtag I'm also a new trader. I'm still within my 3 years, but so many of them, myself included early on, tried to scale up too quickly and focused on how much I could make. That it led to some bad decisions, led to account blowups, led to emotional issues, revenge trading, overholding, FOMO. And the more and more I started to just focus on taking good trades, good setups, executing well, the more consistent I've become in making money. I mean, again, it's nothing crazy. I'm not going to be quitting my job anytime soon, but you can make a nice supplemental income with just being consistent and playing within your risk tolerance. I mean, think about it this way. For a lot of us who, work a 9 to 5, I mean, I don't work a 9 to 5, but that's irregardless to the point I'm trying to make here. I mean, $200 a day is pretty much what I look to try to pull out of the market just with my lower scale good plays. Most of the time, I'm able to do that. And if I can keep my losses well within their tolerable level, that's always going to outpace, or the wins are always going to outpace that. I mean, think to yourself, right? You don't have to play with a ton of risk, but if you were averaging, and that is my average because there are some days where, we'll hit really big plays. If you were averaging an extra $200 a day, 5 days a week, I mean, yeah, you're not going to be able to quit your job, but that's not money to laugh at either, especially if you're only trading for, I don't know what I trade from 9:30 a.m. to 11. It's an hour and a half, right? And eventually, someday, be able to scale that. And then in that hour and a half, that average 200 will move up. And when it outpaces what I can make in a day doing something that doesn't rely on me throwing money at it, well, then maybe I'll consider quitting my job. But until then, it's just a nice supplemental stream of income. It's a fun game that I like to play. It's a puzzle that I'm trying to figure out, to dissect, and really get the knowledge of. And the end goal, the long term goal, is to take the proceeds from day trading and funnel it into dividend paying stocks, things like that. So that way I can completely replace all forms of income with passive income, income I don't even have to do anything for. And then, I mean, that's the real goal, is just kind of being able to do whatever I want and pretty much still getting paid. All right, that's enough chit chat for now. We're going to see if we can find another play. All right, so we are getting another potential crossover on our EMAs. I've already seen this fail once today. We're getting some play up and over our VWAP. We're getting another little breachy breach of our trend line. Similar to before, this would be a good risk to reward spot to play short. And it looks like, yet again, we noticed it a little too late. See, if we entered now, we'd have to give it too much room to be comfortable. At least I would have to give it too much room to be comfortable. But yeah, if this does rotate down to address that poor low, I mean, that right there, that's a very good spot to short. Well, it looks like the EMAs are maybe not going to cross over again. Jeez. Bulls are getting thwacked today if this rotates back through. Oh, yeah. Look at our put call ratio. It's at 0.87. That is heavily bearish. A lot of puts opening today. So, the $1,000,000 question, are we just going to see this super narrow range today, or is this the precursor to a break for the afternoon session? Also, kind of hindsight, I'm actually very intrigued that after getting that poor low, we did get a full rotation back to VWAP. It's very interesting. So we could have made some money on that long play. Actually, pretty decent money. I mean, we paid like what, 137, 138. We could have sold those for about 180 up at VWAP. Yeah, look at that. The EMA clouds did not turn blue. Of course, now that we've seen that, right? The next time it happens, it probably will turn blue. So if we try to go long with it, we're going to get faked. Oh, pardon me. But of course, that's why we want to have good trade location, right? I mean, you can be a breakout trader, but I would not recommend trading on the shorter time frames if you're a breakout trader. That's just a recipe for getting chopped up. You'll see so many false breaks throughout the day. So that's another thing, guys. Good topic to cover. Know your style. Know what your setups are, what your plays are. I mean, for me, it's between playing balance and breaks and using market profile to set my probabilities. And then my entries and exits are based off of my technical lines. So I know where my setups are. And I also know when I'm taking something that isn't my setup. Try to avoid that as much as possible, but it happens. So if you don't have a strategy that's yours, work on developing that. I can really only recommend the various resources that I've used to help me develop my strategy. Market profile being a big one. So reading Um, Dalton. Dalton's put out tons of great literature on the on the subject. And then the other thing I use for my support resistance, my channels, things like that, is Wyckoff theory, developed by Richard Wyckoff. So those are the two big things. I mean, you can see from my indicators, I don't really use a bunch of technical indicators on the chart. A lot of drawings, but not really much for indicators. Volume profile, which ties into market profile. Because here's the problem with indicators, at least in my humble opinion. They tell you everything that's already happened, right? They're not going to really help you guess what's going to be happening to the right in the future. To do that, you need to get better at reading price action, volume, things like that. So actually, that would be the third thing, and probably the most important thing. Learn to read price action, recognize what's showing strength, what's showing weakness, um, what kind of volume comes in on orders, what it says about things. When you get volume influxes at very key levels on the daily or the weekly, things like that, right? Because again, you and I, we're never, ever, ever going to be able to influence the direction of the market. We're just trying to ride the waves as the big boys try to take money from each other. And that's our job. Get in, get out, take your cookies, and go home. So we're getting a continued narrowing of the range. Mostly it's our highs that are getting lower, and our lows are kind of getting flatter. So, I mean, in theory, this is building a bigger argument for an eventual rotation down, kind of similar to what we saw yesterday. Ooh, this this looks like a real breach of structure. That being said, if we change where we set our drawings to, yeah, it doesn't quite look like a breach anymore, does it? It's also been knocking on that line quite a bit. Oh wow, look at that. We actually do have an EMA crossover now. Like I mean the other times it crossed, but we didn't get any blue, right? We didn't get a cloud. Now we've got a cloud. We've got an attempt at we have a break of structure. All right, look at that. Buyers showing some teeth. A little wait. Oh, I guess that was my crosshair making that line. All right, let's see where this rotation goes and if we have a good spot to short. So we're at the high volume node now. Potential spot to short, but we have no reference points, so this isn't a play that we would want to take. The other thing to note, we're starting to push outside of value high, and if this day is still balancing, then in theory, it shouldn't get too much past that. I mean, look at our value low and the lows, right? They kind of flattened out there. And the other thing we can do, a little bit of a shorter trend line. I'm going to see if this line that served as our middling or our rotation line holds as support, or if we get another up thrust event. Oh, God, I hate long COVID. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I mean, physically I feel fine, but this just chronic cough and decreased lung capacity is such a pain. Oh, look at that spot that we said, oh, this would be a great spot to short, but I don't have any reference lines here, so I'm not going to do it. That was a great rotation down. Of course it was, though, right? This is just another balanced day kicking me in the butt. Well, not kicking me in the butt. We're still green. We're still winning. Just recognizing the good places to take profit. So I think maybe we're going to need to adjust our bracket orders a little bit. So this particular bracket order that I set up for today, this one's great for days that start to move, right? When you get further ranges. So even if they end up balancing, as long as you're getting a further range, that bracket should work out perfect every time. I think I need something for balance days, especially ones that are a little bit more narrow. So we'll work on that, and then maybe we can implement something the next time and see how well it works. I mean, if you recall, right, that the first low of the day that almost filled our second position. I mean, that would have been great if it did that. And because it didn't, we probably should have just sold everything right there. Nothing else. We would have taken 50 cents ish on two pieces, which that's nothing to laugh about. So we had already taken 20 on the first piece.
No, that definitely does. Very helpful, Kelly. Thank you. It gives me a little bit of context on what it means to kind of
Also, whether or
share
not you trade shares or contracts, you can use a lot of this same mentality for both. The only thing that changes is with shares. With contracts, you do have to be aware of your theta and your delta and where in the money versus out of the money you're playing. Because with shares, they're not going to decrease in value as the day spins sideways.
I think sometimes you can get tied to that, but it's very helpful to know that you've got exposure. Not that we don't have, in the area, restrictions down the
Do
road,
do do
but
do do, diddling in the middle.
as well in Northborough, so that kind of that boroughs area sort of sometimes gets some hold on there. So that's all.
Seem to have a line that's been respected so far up.
Branches. So two that are in Marlboro and the rest are in all different locations in the Metro West and North Middlesex counties. Kind of how we spread it. So there's a bit of a spread of coverage between our
I've been making some higher highs with this.
with our branch network.
So the good news is, guys, when this does eventually break, when you get these narrowing ranges like this, especially if it goes for most of today, when we get the break, if you're on the right side, should be able to make some pretty serious money. Um, and that's another reason why learning Wyckoff theory is great, because it has a lot of information regarding how the auction works as far as building supply and building demand. So when you get these narrower ranges, when you get buyers and sellers kind of competing within the same space, it sets up for a lot of energy, because under the surface, someone is running a campaign, whether they're accumulating all of the shares at that level. So then that way they can well pretty much drive the price in the direction that they want, right? If they're accumulating everything, then there's nothing left to sell at that level. So they can start pushing price up. And there's nothing to sell. They're holding everything. They've got it all. Same thing with a distribution campaign, right? They're flooding a specific level with supply to the point where there's no one, willing to buy anymore at that level, then they push price down, driving people to sell what they're holding.
Yeah.
And those campaigns are taking place in those narrow ranges. That's on the much broader scale. You can also look at distribution and accumulation campaigns on your shorter time frames too, because there are people who are going to be playing on those time frames with big money. But for the most part, those particular moves are going to happen over days leading into weeks, which is why the 20 and the 50 on the daily are so important. 20 and 50 on the weekly, so important, because the bigger players, they've got their eyes on those. And if they're trying to accumulate supply, they're trying to accumulate everything, up into a certain point. If a probe goes too far and just makes them think, yep, this isn't working, well, then they're going to dump their campaign and it's going to fuel that reaction. All right, some more structure breaking as we continue this balancing dance. All right, I'm going to step away for a second, guys, get some more coffee. I'll be right back. And we're back. Still battling on that VWAP. Yeah, unfortunately, we might not be making another trade today. That's all right. We're still going to end our day green and work on our bracket orders for days like today. I'd be careful about trying to play the long here, even though we are breaching that value area. We do still have that poor low on the day, so keep that in mind. Doesn't mean that there won't be a long play here. Very well could be. And it looks like there was. That would have been a really nice scalp. The volatility on that alone, you could have grabbed those for 128 and sold them for 145. just off that single
Although
candle.
a lot of what we're doing is that idea of
And it's still going. Jeez almighty. Well, poor low be damned. Oh, also, our demand zone, it's been holding. So I'd be very interested to see now if we continue some of this fanning action, if we get a higher high than the previous high.
I'm interested in learning about that. I know obviously this event in particular is coming up soon. So as I'm looking at it, my first thought is maybe we support this event. And I did dig into the see what we've got obviously available capacity for this year, but perhaps also exploring what opportunities going forward might exist and how we might be able to make that and align ourselves with, and kind of I'm not sure if that's something that might make sense at this point. Yeah.
Oh, seems like my microphone's getting more sensitive the quieter I am.
So, kind of next steps for me, I know obviously this time, the time frame for the, refresh my memory.
Well,
That is so that I can.
we're probably going to still be shutting the stream down in a couple minutes here. Maybe we'll get a play.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Thank you.
However, so far, every touchdown in this area did result eventually in a push away from it. This push seems like it died out. So that makes me wonder if we're seeing a distribution campaign, let people kind of buy up here and then sell above VWAP. But the higher highs wouldn't make sense for that. So no, I don't like that theory. I don't know, guys. I think from an analytical standpoint, today might be vexing me.
I can't say that I've done much in the way of artistry aside from my
Oof.
here in marketing these days, like design and things. But I certainly enjoy. I'm not, I would never say that I'm anything.
All right, another touchdown at the value low. Looks like there's still some orders down there. But are there going to be enough to change the flow? I mean, could make another long play. Is that smart? We only have a short amount of time to decide. I'm glad we didn't. Say, if this fails, though, we could probably play the move back through. So the distribution campaign theory looks like it may have been correct, even though there were some things about it that just didn't look right. We've got about 7 minutes left in this. We've got more than 7 minutes. We've got 8 minutes left in this period, and we just made a proper low. Oh, I wanted a better price than that. Oh, crap. I didn't have my bracket order up. Okay. I guess we're playing it that way then. It messed with my head a little bit. Yeah, looks like we are falling. I was hoping the low volume would draw somebody in for buying. But signs of a successful distribution campaign. And we're getting closer to that high volume node. And unfortunately, our stop is right above that high volume node. Do we want to put it below? We'd have to expose ourselves to more risk, but that would be a really, really good spot for this to flip. All right. We are going to expose ourselves to a little bit more risk. And this will be our last play of the day. This potentially will play into, from our morning reports, really good long thesis. We want to see what happens when we get to the high volume node, obviously, because that is going to make all the difference. All right. Adding one. We're going to add one more to this, and then we're going to set our stop to keep us from losing our shirt. All right. 10, 20, 30. All right, play is in. Should have a pretty good idea once the next period starts if we made a smart decision or a poor decision. I like that there doesn't seem to be a lot of volume trading down near this high volume node. We do, however, need to cross into the EMA cloud before this is profitable. Got just under 2 minutes. All right, period D incoming. And period D. So if this drops, we have a gap between the bottom of A and where D has started. So if we want to stay confident, we wanted to see exactly that. And now we want to see it rotate through this thin area. Unfortunately, we closed the gap. It looks like it's struggling. Made it past that thin spot, but we're not getting the influx of shorts closing, or maybe we are about to. Well, either way, since we're almost done for today, I'm just going to protect this, so we'll take a few cents on it if it doesn't keep going. It's probably going to find its way back to that high volume node since it rejected the low. Eh. All right. Well, we're out. Green on the day. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Let's see. End of the day stats. We're up 41 cents. Since we were playing the same call contracts, the ones that we broke even on before, we moved up 11 cents on those with that play. And we took 30 cents on the puts from earlier in the morning. Some notes from all of that. If we had scalped a little bit better instead of playing for the break, we definitely would have hit our goal today, been much better. Because right at that point where we were trying to get filled for the first short, if we had just closed the other two positions, I mean, that would have put us up another 50 cents on two pieces. And then for the long, if we had played two VWAP instead of just closing that, granted, it made sense to close it, right? From a structural standpoint, we saw the poor low. But had we played to VWAP, that would have been it. We would have taken our whole daily goal right there in profit. But other than that, guys, that's a wrap. Good trading session. We navigated successfully. Another balancing day. We got messed with a little bit. There were definitely some cheeky plays going on there, but again, it's all part of the learning process, right? At the end of the day, we're trying to make sure we don't let our emotions rule our decisions. We're trying to make sure we're making good, logical plays with clear entries, clear exits, and then taking money when it's given to us. All right. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome day. If you've been enjoying the content, please like, subscribe, join the Discord, hang out with me live when I do this. And as always, feel free to ask questions. I may not have the answer, but I could probably guide you and or direct you to the right place. Good luck out there, guys. We're definitely going to be doing a analysis video this week to kind of cap off what we've been talking about with these narrowing ranges, the price action we've been seeing recently, and then, of course, the 50 and the 20 on our weekly, and just kind of how everything plays out with that. It'll be interesting to talk about and see. All right, I'm out.